Great. So are you in the right Zoom room? We are going to cover today knowing your ideal clients better than they know themselves. I don't ask much. I just want to know other people's minds better than they know their own minds. We're going to talk about how to say something worth listening to. We are going to talk about leading with your social mission, and then core elements of a successful digital marketing strategy, or what I like to call your minimum viable marketing plan. Anybody here dislike marketing? What I do is deeply unfashionable. Nobody likes marketing except for marketers. Every founder, every startup, every business owner that I speak with, pretty much, unless they are a professional marketer, their first thing that they want to do is get rid of their marketing and get somebody else to do it. So you are not alone if this resonates. And it's a really important thing for you to take charge of, at least in the first couple of years, I believe. And hopefully I'm going to convince you why. Now, you're in the right place if you're a business owner who wants to stand out from the crowd, or you haven't yet launched your social enterprise and you might feel a bit self-conscious about marketing. Like I said, very normal. Everybody hates marketing, but marketers. So if you feel self-conscious when you get your mug on the internet, if the idea of posting a selfie on Instagram makes you want to cry, deep breath, we can do it. Yeah, I can help. If you're keen to lead with your social mission, so regardless of where you are on the spectrum, whether you're an established social enterprise, whether you're right at the beginning, you haven't yet launched, but your heart's in the right place, you have a social mission, you're in it for more than the money, and you want to use this to lead your marketing, then welcome. If you want marketing to be easier, next step, you're not in the right place if you think everyone is your customer or client, because they are not. Sorry to break it to you. We're going to talk about this in more detail. You don't get why your reputation is important. So absolutely, definitely, marketing, part and parcel of marketing is about establishing your professional reputation, establishing your brand, as the kids nowadays are calling it, your brand. Older people perhaps might call it your professional reputation. If you're not a convenience store and you're not looking for one-off transaction, I'm in the convenience store because it's convenient for me to buy milk or bread or a chocolate bar, because that's also a necessity, right? Then hopefully you understand the importance of building your professional reputation, but I'm going to be talking about that as well. If you don't like people, marketing is really, really hard if you don't like people. If you like people, if you are generally a people person, not all people. Yeah, we can't be all things to all people. Not everybody's our cup of tea. But if you don't like people in general, marketing is difficult. Sales is even harder. So, quick introduction. My name is Brook McCarthy. And I'm a digital marketing trainer and a business coach with 16 years experience. I've been self-employed for 13 years, happily unemployable for the rest of my life. Before I got into the wild, wild west of digital marketing, I worked in public relations. I've been self-employed since 2008, business coaching since 2012. And I specialize in helping sole traders and small business owners who feel self-conscious about marketing themselves and would far rather just do the work than talk about it. So why did I start with this is for you if, this is not for you if? Because it's part and parcel of what we're talking about today, because effective marketing is about calling people out, calling very specific people out. And those specific people, who are they? They are your ideal clients. Yeah. And there's someone for everyone. There is someone for everyone. I sincerely believe that. It doesn't matter what you are selling. You could be selling fresh air, which is a YouTube video I love sharing with my participants in courses like how to start a business courses, because there is a market for fresh air. in a jar, £100, just in case you're wondering. Look it up on YouTube. I'll find you the link if you're interested. So part of what we're doing is we're leading with our social mission. We stand for, we stand against. Here are our values. Are these your values too? Here is our social mission. Is it your social mission too? The more specific you can be with calling people out and saying, this is for you, this is not for you, the more effective your marketing will be. Because effective marketing attracts, but it also repels. Effective marketing should attract and it should repel at the same time. So I want to ask now, if that is effective marketing, what is ineffective marketing? What does ineffective marketing do? If you could use the chat and let me know. Scattergun approach, excellent. Attracts the wrong clients, not passing the message through, trying to appeal to everyone, waste resources, cuts me off. Oh, I like that one, Anne. Cuts me off. Nice one. Does nothing. Yes. So I like to, oh, this is great. I love this. There is a tsunami of answers here. I feel that there's been a lot of crappy marketing in our lives to date, right? So I like to call ineffective marketing the elevator music of the internet. It is not seen, it is not heard, it is, it barely makes an impression. You kind of resent bending your thumb to scroll on past it, right? And this is what a lot of people in business are doing. Their marketing looks pretty, but it's invisible. It's invisible, and it's certainly invisible to the people that most need to hear it. Yeah. So this is not what we're doing today. So let's crack on with knowing your ideal clients better than they know themselves. Yeah, because like I said before, in my opinion, I don't just want to know who my ideal clients are. I don't just want to be able to define them and to have a conversation with somebody and say, in my head, yep, you're my ideal client. I also want to know them better than they know themselves. And, that might sound arrogant, or it might sound glib, or it might sound silly. But if you think about it, you could know your ideal clients better than they know themselves, because you're dealing with a large volume of a particular type of person. So you're in a pretty unique position to be able to notice the nuances, the patterns, the little details that you see over and over and over again in this large group of similar type people. So let's talk about that. Your ideal clients are, I want you to think about the psychographics, old school marketing. So when we're talking about madmen, and by the way, I should clarify terms, because when I refer to marketing, I'm talking about not paid. I'm talking about your efforts. And when I talk about advertising or ads, I'm talking about paid. This is not everybody's definition. Some people kind of lump them together, but I find that a really easy way to kind of distinguish between them. So old school marketing and old school advertising, I'm thinking like Mad Men, and even in the 80s and perhaps even into the 90s. We kind of saw a bit of a shift in the late 90s, but certainly in the 2000s, there's been a radical departure from how things used to be done. Marketing and your target market, defining your target market, used to be about, my target market is a woman aged 30 to 45 who lives in Sydney, in the inner west, the inner east, and the inner lower North Shore, and she earns 100,000, and she's in a household with a combined household income. She's got 2.4 kids, she's got 1.2 dogs, she's university educated, and she votes for the Liberal Party, whatever. So that is old school way of thinking, but new school way of thinking is psychographics, right? And psychographics recognizes that all women aged 30 to 45 who live in the inner suburbs of Sydney with a combined household income of 250,000 and 2.4 children don't all think the same. Yeah, we are all different. We all believe different things. We all look at the world differently. We all have different fears, different hopes, different attitudes. We are complex, living, breathing skin bags of emotion. We are not just a psychographic profile. Yeah. So we want to go much further than that. Yeah. We want to go much beyond, is she female? Is he male? And oftentimes demographics, of course, are very useful for certain businesses, but I would suggest for a good 90% of businesses, they're not nearly as relevant as you might think. And instead, psychographics makes things way more powerful and far more interesting. So the next question I want to ask for you, and if you don't already have a pen in hand or a pencil in hand, research shows that writing things down is better than typing them out for retention and memory. Why are you most drawn to work with this particular group of people? Now, please, anything is better than a blank page here. So if there's nothing on your page, please write something. It doesn't matter if it's good, it doesn't matter if it's accurate, it doesn't matter if it's complete. Take whatever idea you have, eject it from your brain, give your poor old brain some breathing space, put it down on paper. What clues do you have as to why you are most drawn to work with this particular group of people? Common interest. Go beyond common interest, Peter. See if you can go a little bit deeper. Yeah. Okay, next one. How does your story interweave or interrelate with their story? Now, again, the more details you can add in here, the better. It doesn't have to be a complete picture. It doesn't have to be a finished picture. It doesn't have to be a great picture. Eject whatever ideas you've got onto paper. How does your story and their story interweave or interrelate? You do not need to look like your ideal client. This is the biggest, what's the word? I think this is a thing that people tend to do. It's the biggest tendency we tend to do is we go, okay, well, my ideal client looks like me and they sound like me and they're just like me, except they're, a few steps behind me. To be brutally frank, because we only have an hour together today, I think that's a failure of imagination. Yeah, we assume other people are like us. We all do this. It's a radical thing when we realize how differently other people might think to how we think. So ponder on the details and ponder on the backstory. Just because you made a decision to start a social enterprise or you changed what you were doing to start a social enterprise doesn't mean that what happened before is irrelevant. Yeah. So I like to bring in these details of my story. I like to talk about the fact that I'm happily unemployable for the rest of my life, because 13 years is a good chunk of time to be self-employed. And unless something, I survived 2020. So, what happens next? It's fun to see how all the threads of what your life has brought you to can be relevant, can be made relevant. And this is the art of creativity. This is the art of copywriting. This is the art of videography. Love it, Kelly. So when you're getting started with your brand, when you are consolidating your brand and you're trying to figure out, okay, well, who are we exactly and why should people care? Your brand can start with you. Lots of people find this easier to start with their own brand story. They talk about themselves, or they talk about the organization, they talk about the enterprise, and they find that easier. Other people find it much easier to come from the perspective of your ideal clients. I know when I started my business 13 years ago, I found it much easier to talk about other people than to talk about myself. And certainly that's a massive shortcut if you are self-conscious in marketing, if you hate the idea of talking about yourself on the internet. Here's the solution. Don't get obsessed with your ideal client. Yeah. So again, You're trying to understand your ideal clients better than they know themselves. You're trying to get inside the shoes, inside the heads of your ideal clients. This is a massive shortcut with overcoming that self-consciousness, because, you know, any introvert who goes to parties is probably knows the trick. And this is something that I use as well. I find it really fun and really easy. You pick somebody in the room and you come up to them and you ask them loads of questions about themselves, and they do all the talking and you learn all this stuff about them. And at the end of the conversation, you don't feel at all self-conscious. And the hilarious part, seriously, try this out. When we're allowed to go to parties again, try this out. They think you're fascinating, and they may know nothing about you, but they'll think you're very interesting and very intelligent and absolutely fascinating, simply because you gave them the forum to talk about themselves. So not one approach is better than the other. You know, some people will move towards talking about themselves or focusing on their brand and their social mission. Others will find it easier to talk about that, you know, to fixate on the ideal clients and to talk to the problems and the issues and the situations and the circumstances that their ideal clients are in. Yeah, not one is better than the other, but together you are a mutual admiration society. And again, back to my earlier point about effective marketing attracting and repelling at the same time. It should attract and repel at the same time, because you're trying to create a mutual admiration society. You're trying to create a scenario where your business is absolutely thriving. And it's thriving because it's self-sustaining. It's a joy for you to go to work. You don't burn out. And part of the reason you don't burn out is because the people that you're around will happily pay, yeah, and will tell all their friends and family, and will get the most out of doing business with you. They'll get a great, you know, result, and naturally, of course, they'll give you testimonials and referrals. So this is really the creme de la creme. It's the gold standard of business, right? So then I know, again, it depends on where you are. If how many, put your hand up in the chat. Are you new? So maybe you're pre-launch, or maybe your first 18 months, within the first 18 months. Let us know in the chat, because this will definitely be more relevant to you. Excellent. We have a lot of pre-launch. We have first year, 18 months, new, great, awesome. So I think hopefully this definitely becomes easier. I love the emojis. This definitely becomes easier the longer that you're in business, but it's also a really useful thing to do every few years. If you've lost your mojo, if, you know, your love of life is missing in action, if you're starting to really kind of resent work and resent your business, then this is a really smart thing to do, to revisit that. Caitlin, did you want to unmute yourself if you have a question for me? Or you're welcome to use the chat if you prefer. I think it was Caitlin raised a hand. Maybe it was.
Oh, I was just agreeing. I was saying I was new as well.
Okay, great. Good. Welcome to the wild world. Making a buck out of your own sweat and smarts. Highly recommend it. So some fresh ideas. Eavesdropping. Eavesdropping is a great thing to do, and it can work really well too, because people can be more honest when they're not in a formal survey, interview, question answer kind of scenario. Yeah. So this is not any new technique. In fact, a lot of retailers, they actually train their staff to eavesdrop. Lululemon is quite famous for training their staff to eavesdrop in the change room area. So when people are trying on their active wear and they're talking to their girlfriends or boyfriends, they're way more likely to be honest. Yeah. No, Peter, I would not recommend phone tapping. So Facebook groups are an awesome place to go for this. There are other closed communities on other social media channels. But Facebook has really nailed it at this point in time. Facebook groups are the best place to go. And this is full of your ideal clients who are having intimate conversations about the very issues, worries, problems, inconveniences, situations, scenarios that your social enterprise is dealing with. So this is invaluable information. I'm a massive social media fan. I've been using it for as long as it's been around, and I've been teaching it for as long as it was a viable marketing tool. And I am that weirdo who reads all the comments. Why? Because it's a privilege. I think it's fascinating. Like, it's fascinating hearing all these opinions, hearing opinions that are different from yours, hearing opinions that introduce new ideas that you've never thought about before. You know, I understand that it can be a hotbed of extremism, and certainly, you know, with vaccinations right now, it's a bit of a I don't know what the word is. If you'd like to use the chat, you can supply a word here. But it's an invaluable place to be, and especially for that, you know, that social listening, what's called social listening. Of course, there is software that does social listening as well. But, you know, you don't have to do that. You can just join some groups. And I would suggest about 5 quality groups are invaluable. Okay, who's up for the 100 coffee date challenge? Line them up. So yesterday, I think it was, I met a woman in Italy, in southern Sicily, for a, you know, getting to know you kind of chat, a gender-free chat. Tomorrow, I'm meeting a woman in Singapore. I'm not flying, as you might imagine. Can you take a 100 coffee date challenge? Yeah, a no agenda challenge. And if you're zoomed out, because you may well be zoomed out right now, you can use the phone the old-fashioned way. Yeah, go Kelly, go Kelly. Love it. Who's joining Kelly? Get busy listening. So you want to notice what's not being said. When you're in conversation with people, what's not being said? Take notes on specific language. Yeah, what are the words and the phrases that your people are using? Yeah, and it's a little bit of an investigation. You're taking clues. Yeah. Samantha and Katrina have joined you. Love it. Caitlin, did you have a question for me? Maybe Caitlin's raising a hand saying, I'm into the coffee challenge, 100 coffee date challenge. Awesome. Learn the art of asking better questions. I've got a whole bunch of better questions on Instagram right now. It's been a popular post, how to ask better questions. You know, it is a skill, and it, you know, as a business coach, it's one of the key skills that I get paid for. Watch closely. Yeah, observe humans, and especially the nonverbal communication. You know, who likes to people watch? Anyone like people watching? Anyone? You know, one of my favorite games to play, you know, sitting in a restaurant, watching another group at another table, and then kind of making a story about what their conversation is about, who they are, what's their relationship, what's the story that they're having. You know, these are all invaluable marketing and sales skills as well. Yeah, because people skills are marketing skills. Marketing skills are people skills. Read widely, listen widely, take a different route, home. Has anybody read, what's the book called? Julia Cameron. I'm sure when I say that name, there's bound to be at least one fan here. It is called, thank you, Leanne, The Artist's Way. Thank you, Lauren. The Artist's Way, you know, it took me a while to read this book. I heard many people recommend it before I got to it, but it was things that, you know, I'd kind of intuitively been doing for years, and you've probably intuitively been doing them as well. You know, things like getting outside your comfort zone and talking to people who are radically different from who you are. This is one of the joys of travel, right? This is why we go traveling, because you've got this, you know, massively new situation. Weekly firsts, love it. Very cool. Excellent. And yeah, I mean, when people, one of the things I like about going traveling is when I can't understand the language. There's many things that I like about not understanding the language, but one of the things I like about not understanding the language is that I can assume that everybody's having deep and meaningful conversations and saying really intelligent, critical thinking things, you know, rather than saying what's for breakfast. So talking to strangers, it is an invaluable thing to do, and especially when you are self-conscious, and especially when you're brand new to business. Yeah, that first probably 6 months, but probably into 12 months, I had coffee with anyone who looked at me sideways. I would travel all over town to meet anyone and everybody. And, you know, there is a natural exuberance that comes with this. Yeah, there's research to show that talking to strangers is good for you. And if you're naturally good at this, then you are doing the world a favor by exercising this. So I want you to think about, you know, the internet a different way, because if you're going to be good at digital marketing, you have to stop resenting the internet. You have to stop resenting social media. You have to stop resenting the need to market your business. Yeah, this is a privilege. Telling stories on the internet is a privilege. Meeting strangers on the internet is a privilege. Being able to keep in contact with thousands and thousands and thousands of people via email marketing, via video marketing, via your website, via social media is a privilege. It would be impossible to keep up with that number otherwise. So if we can change our attitude, if we can change our thinking, and at the very least, you're gonna have to do it, right? So you may as well enjoy it, because when you enjoy something, you're likely to be better at it, and time is likely to pass a lot quicker. So creativity and empathy are two key skills in marketing. Yeah. And, you know, developing these in yourself are two crucial things to do as the leader of a social enterprise. So let's crack on with how to say something worth listening to. Please pick up your pens if you don't have your pens already. We are inundated with 2,000 to 5,000. There's many, you know, stats to talk about how many, but it's at least 2,000 marketing messages a day, every day. And so what do? We put on our blinkers. We have to put on our blinkers. We wouldn't get through the day otherwise, right? It wouldn't be possible to get through the day otherwise. So this is why so much marketing is the elevator music of the internet, because we have our blinkers on. So what gets through our blinkers? Useful, valuable, relevant information. And what does relevant mean? It means to our specific clients. It needs to be relevant to us. It needs to be relevant to us to make it through those blinkers, which again is another reason why we need to know our ideal clients better than they know themselves. So specific is genius. The more specific that you can be, not only in knowing your ideal clients, but knowing in intimate detail what they care about, the better your marketing is going to work, because it's way easier to talk about something that other people are already interested in than to try and get them interested in something that they're not interested in. It's kind of like politics, right? You've got the far left, you've got the far right, you've got the bell curve in the middle. If you're trying to convince, and public health, this is a great example. Here we are in the middle of COVID. If you're trying to convince people of something, you're better off ignoring the two polar ends. You're better off concentrating on the ambivalence in the middle, because it's the ambivalence in the middle that you're most likely to be able to influence. The more specific you can get with your messaging, the better it's going to work. So let's talk about our content strategy. Let's get into the nitty-gritty detail now of what exactly you're going to be talking about on the internet. Because I tell you what, the questions I get asked all the time are tactical questions. How many times a day should I post to social media? How many times a week should I post to Instagram? Should I be on LinkedIn? Should I be doing this? Should I do video? And how do I do video? Blah, 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 blah. This is the least important questions. The better questions are, what the hell are you going to talk about? Not just today, not just tomorrow, not just next week, but for years and years and years to come. That's not only going to get your audience interested, your ideal clients magnetized to you, but it's going to keep you personally interested. Because if you lose your interest in what you're talking about, well, your market's not going to find you that interesting either, right? You've got to be interested if you want to get other people interested. Keeping your own creativity alight is part and parcel of what we're doing here. So the first and the easiest thing to do is, what are your FAQs? And I'm not talking about having an FAQ page on your website, although that might be a useful thing. I'm talking about every single answer to every single frequently asked question is ripe for content, and not just once, but because it's frequent, over and over and over again. So for those newbies in the Zoom room, if you're brand new, if you've not yet had a single client, if you haven't had a single conversation, it's time to talk to strangers. Talk to your family, talk to people that aren't that close to you. Tell them what you're doing. Talk to people on the street. Tell them what you're doing. Listen to their questions. Those are your FAQs. Yeah, you can use this as a little bit of market research at the same time. Now, the more interesting thing, of course, is let's get a bit deeper than this. What are the likely reasons behind each of these FAQs? What are the questions people are most likely to ask me? And what are the likely reasons behind those particular questions? This is, getting a little bit more sophisticated, a little bit more interesting. And then we've got, what do you wish for your FAQs? And this one is particularly necessary for those of you who've been around the traps for a while. If you've been in business for yourself for a while, if you are feeling like you've lost your mojo, if you're feeling a bit tired, a bit resentful, a little bit over it, then I want you to focus on this one. Forget about this one, think about this one, because what you wish for your FAQs is your future. This is what you want. Yeah, this is your deeper desires. If you're feeling frustrated, great. This is really, really useful. Anger, frustration, jealousy, hugely useful emotions if you can transmute them into a different energy, into, an energetic energy. Energetic energy, please excuse that, my goodness. Number 4, and this is, central to the whole ideal client thing, is what are these struggles, issues, or frustrations that relate to what you do? I'm frustrated because I'm having to buy food in plastic all the time. I'm frustrated because I want food to be easy and convenient, and I don't really want to peel all the vegetables every single night of my life, but I really resent having all this plastic, and it's making me feel shit about myself. It's making me feel at odds with my values because I know that I'm not acting in integrity. Number 5, what breaks your heart or frustrates the crap out of you about your sector, your industry, your piece of the world? Yeah, this is important. This is going to give you a massive clue as to everything else. Yeah, as to everything else, because what you find personally, what you are personally impassioned by is fuel. Yeah, in fact, it's more than fuel. It could be the whole kit and caboodle of establishing your social enterprise. So I want to kind of pull this together now and go from, fairly abstract questions to more, more detail. There's a 4-step process that I lead my clients through to ensure that marketing and reputation building efforts all reinforce each other. And that is 5 to 7 topics that relate to what you sell. Now, this is not dissimilar to the last lot of questions that we went through. Yeah, it shouldn't be dissimilar. Your FAQs should directly relate to the 5 to 7 topics that relate to what you sell. And this, the 5 to 7 topics become 5 to 7 blog categories. Now, you might not be a writer. You might not have any desire to have, a written blog. Doesn't matter. Have a podcast, have a video show, whatever it is, you still have 5 to 7 topics, 5 to 7 categories to give caveats and edges to what you do, to define what you do, and to make sure that that relates directly to what you're selling. It is the social and the enterprise married together. Ensure you're marketing to each stage along the path towards becoming your new ideal client. This is super important because even if you have one ideal client, let's call her Deb. Yeah, let's pretend Deb is your ideal client. Deb still goes on a journey towards not knowing much to becoming an avid raving fan who brings friends and family. And along that journey, she's needing different information. She's wanting different information. Her Google searches are different. Yeah. So you want to kind of pull those different parts of the customer journey out and make sure you're marketing to each part. Help people see, feel, and know what's possible for them. You are selling a transformation, not the process. Nobody's as interested in what you do as you are. And what I mean by that is the more of a geek you are, the worse your marketing will tend to be. The more of an expert you are, the more of the worse your marketing will tend to be, because you lose the ability to empathize. You're so deeply enmeshed in what you're doing. I love reading these backstories of, famous men that have achieved amazing, amazing things. They've often got an absolute shitstorm behind them because they're so single-minded, they're so singular in their focus and their dedication to what they're doing that they don't have any empathy. They don't have room for empathy. There's no time for that. So focus on the transformation, but focus on the before and the after. This is why people are in front of me. This is what my customers are coming to me with. And this is what will happen afterwards. What will happen after I buy food that's not covered in convenient food that's not covered in plastic? I'm going to feel great about myself. I'm going to feel like my identity is in alignment. My values are in alignment, that I am proactively doing something about the amount of plastic in the world. For example, know what wakes your ideal clients up at 2 a.m. This is the $1 million question. Yeah, I want to know my ideal clients better than they know themselves. And I want to know that what wakes them up at 2 a.m. What is that? If I knew what that was, then that's what you can talk to. That is the heart of your marketing. That is really when your marketing becomes super, super powerful. So a couple more details in relation to this. I just want to cover off some kind of essentials. When you're on social media, you want to, and how many social channels, you might ask? Thank you for asking. I would suggest 2 to 3. Yeah, don't do what I do. I'm on bloody TikTok, for God's sake. I'm on TikTok because I teach TikTok. I have to be on all these social channels. 2 to 3 is more than adequate. Why more than 2? Why 2? Because 1 is too high risk and any more than 3 is probably unnecessary. So you can see here that there's a consistency across all these channels on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and on Twitter. There's a very slight difference between each. And the slight difference has to do with the different types of ideal clients on the different types of channels. And I might be selling different things on the different channels. So this one is LinkedIn, of course, is more business to business. So it's going to be quite different from Facebook and Instagram. Okay, so let's talk about leading with your social mission now. I want to hear from you in the chat. If I could hear from you in the chat, I'd love to know, what do you think? What's the answer to this? Why does putting your social mission out there attract your clients? And there's a clue, one of the very first things that we talked about right in the beginning of the day, right in the beginning of the presentation rather. Awareness, genuine. People want to be part of something bigger. Absolutely. They want to be like you, perhaps. Remember, people are also attracted to people that are nothing like them because of the fact that they're nothing like them. Starts with why. I love this. There's some great examples here. Remember way back when we started this presentation 45 minutes ago, I talked about who is this for, who is this not for? This is for you if, this is not for you if. Yeah, you are calling people out. Your marketing becomes a beacon. Yeah, your communications become a beacon, and it says, what do you know, are you with us? Are you with us? Great. You're putting a stake in the ground and saying, this is what we stand for. This is what we stand against. Awesome. I love these answers. Keep them coming in the chat. So your social mission. Now, hopefully you've done some of this before. Hopefully this is not the first in the series. Hopefully you are well versed in this section. What is the change you'd like to see in the world? We do this. This is the result. It helps to create the change that we want to see in the world. Yeah, this is coming from the positive angle. Now, you can come from the negative because the negative is oftentimes easier than the positive. This is the change we want to see, so this is what we need to do to achieve this. Or, you know, this is what we despise about the world. This is what breaks our heart about the world. This is the result of that, and this is what we don't want, so therefore we do this thing. It's sometimes easier to define yourself if you're stuck, if your about page is a work in progress that's been going on for several years now. Start by defining yourself against something. It's a massive shortcut. I am not this. I am not that. We are not like this. We are not like that. Yeah. So in other words, what is the bigger reason behind why you do what you do? What do you stand for and what do you stand against? When you put a stake in the ground and say, this is what I care about, because, you know, believing that your cause should be self-evident is a massive hindrance to you reaching people. Yeah, if you believe your cause should be self-evident, you are making life hard for yourself. You are making business much harder than it needs to be. It is not self-evident. We are all suffering from compassion fatigue. Yeah, we are all overwhelmed. And especially in, you know, 2020, 2021, your cause is not necessarily my cause. You know, I might have like a whole bunch of different values. I might be a caring, loving person, but I still have a kind of a bunch of different causes that I am more interested in and less interested in. So putting that social mission together and making it super specific. Specific is genius. It will act as a beacon to call people out, to call people to you. And then you weave these into the stories. Modern day marketing is content marketing. Does anybody know what I'm talking about with modern day marketing? Does anybody know what I'm talking about when I say content marketing? Can anybody tell me what content marketing is? And you're probably all participating. I'd be amazed if you weren't participating in content marketing every single day. Yeah, a blog is content marketing for sure. Vlogs, blogs, what else? Facebook, social media, Instagram, websites, absolutely, definitely. So pretty much if you're not advertising, if you're not doing directly promotional posting such as, hey, buy my thing, register for my event, then you are likely doing content marketing. It is content that educates, and it's content that is designed to pull people to you. Yeah. And for it to work, it needs to be useful, valuable, relevant. So I've been blogging for about 10 years, consistently for 10 years. And I blogged about going to New Orleans and all the live music we saw. I blogged about Leonard Cohen and Nina Simone and Björk. I blogged about woodworking and rock climbing and, joining a gym for the first time ever. And, I have to stop myself blogging about the gym because I'm sure it's pretty dull. But the point is, I can tell all those stories and I can pull it back to digital marketing and business growth. Yeah. So the art of storytelling is something that we've always done. It's something that is innate in us. And again, it's something we do when we're talking to strangers. It's something we do at parties. It's something we do when we gather in groups. The very same rules apply when you are at a party. You remember parties? I can't wait for parties. I tell you what, I'll put my PO box in here. So if you want to send me a party invitation, that'd be great. The same rules apply at parties that they do when you are doing digital marketing. A raconteur starts a story. Everybody leans in. They can't wait to hear the next thing. He starts or she starts with a bang, with a joke, with a whatever. And everybody's leaning in and nobody wants to walk away because they can capture your imagination and your attention. Absolutely the same structure, the same psychology, the same rules apply to digital marketing. Face-to-face communication is not digital marketing. We have a lot more non-verbal cues. We have a lot more small talk. Whereas digital, we have to jump straight in. We have to jump straight in with the story. We have to put the joke in the beginning. We have to put the gold up front. We have to give people a quick win. We have to earn people's attention. We do not have a right to people's attention. We have a quick and easy access to the internet, but we do not have a right to people's attention. So let's pull it all together. Your successful digital marketing strategy. What are we talking about here? So right at the top, we started here and we moved this away, is your website. This is your owned media. If anybody wants to ask questions about websites, feel free in the chat. Hopefully there'll be a few people that can help out with some answers as well. Your website, why? Because you own it. It is your digital real estate. It is your home on the internet. There is nothing wrong with having a starter website. I had Joomla for about a year, then I had Weebly for about a year and a half, and I've been on WordPress ever since. There is nothing wrong with saying we're just going to get our website live this weekend as quickly as possible, and then that'll be good for 6 months or that'll be good for a year. Yeah. So you own this. This is your digital real estate. Then through your content marketing, through your podcast, through your blog, through your videos, through your graphics, they could be graphical led, you're answering the FAQs and wannabe FAQs. This helps with your Google ranking. Yeah. Media publicity comes kind of as a result, pretty much, it's a little embarrassing to say this, but I've got a background in PR, but I'm very, very lazy with PR. So I don't pitch myself to media, or I very rarely pitch myself to media. I don't send media releases. I should send media releases. I know how to, but all the publicity I've had, including in magazines, newspapers, has come to me and it's come through Google, because this starts to reinforce this. So a lot of public relations, of course, is social media. One of the quickest and easiest things that you can do. It's so accessible. It's free. It's fantastic. One of the quickest and easiest things you can do is you can interview people on Instagram, and you can be interviewed on Instagram. No tech required, no microphone required, no nothing. You just need an Instagram account. It has become easier and cheaper and easier and more accessible every day. So you can create your own media. You can create your own events. You can do so through social media. And remember, in the olden days, in the 80s and the 90s, PR was a big industry. But nowadays, we don't need the gatekeepers anymore, because we can watch the news and we can see the newsreader's Twitter handle on television, and then we can tweet directly to the journalists. It's not hard. Find a media publication, find the journalist, and almost all of them will have their social media channels. You can directly pitch, you can directly talk to journalists. So this is part and parcel of building your business, the networking and the collaborations, talking to strangers, introducing yourself to strangers, talking to people, having meaningful conversations, making meaningful connections with people, keeping up with people. And then what happens next? Well, it's a quick and easy thing to do a blog swap where you blog for them, they blog for you, you both link to each other's websites. That's a really easy, quick collaboration. And I even recycle, I can be a bit lazy sometimes. I even recycle my blog posts. So I might write one article and then I'll pimp it out to like 3 or 4 different websites. And it'll also be on LinkedIn and it'll also be on my own website. So all of this starts to reinforce each other and it all adds up to influence. It all adds up to your meaningful influence on the internet. So you are not the elevator music of the internet. So the next question I have for you, and this is a serious one. I want to know, are you in with a bare minimum viable marketing plan? And why does it have to be bare minimum? Because I'm sick of talking about maximum. And you go to, you know, people get all hyped up. They're like, right, wow, I've just spent $10,000 in Thailand and I'm all, you know, Tony Robbins and blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to do all the things. And that lasts for maybe, what, a month, if you're lucky. And then a month later, they're kind of crying in the corner of the room, drinking scotch straight from the bottle. So let's start with the bare minimum. And let's do a bare minimum viable marketing plan because we do want it to actually result in things, right? Awesome. Angie's getting off the starting block. Love it. Jeff's in. Who else? Who else is in? Let's kick it off. What is this exactly? Bare minimum viable marketing. Every month, I suggest one topic or theme. Remember, you've got 5 to 7 topics you've already created. So you could break those down further if you wanted. You could bring in complementary, supplementary topics or themes to come up with 12. One topic or theme a month. And then one piece of long form content related to the theme published on your website. If you want to be the go-to expert, if you want to be the go-to brand, you need a place for people to go to, right? There's been countless times I'm sitting in a sales pitch, you know, in a room with 300 people and somebody's standing on the stage making claims to be the biggest and best expert in the whole history of the world. And I Google them and I'm like, gee whiz, there's not a lot of evidence of this, huh? So you need to take that seriously and recognize that it's a privilege. It's a privilege to use the internet to spread the good word about your social mission. Yeah. This becomes your body of work over time. You've got 1 email per month to promote this. This is a bare minimum. And then you've got 2 or 3 social media channels scheduled weekly or fortnightly. Believe me, get your life back. Embrace scheduling. I use Buffer for scheduling. I also use Tailwind for Instagram. Planoly also has an excellent reputation. You can get free accounts on pretty much all of these, I believe, certainly on Buffer. Scheduling will change your life. So you sit down, you put a timer on, you've got loud music playing and you're scheduling your social media and you're not overthinking it. Yeah, they all do LinkedIn. So Jamie, they do all of them. You can literally, that's what it is. So Buffer, you've got every single social media channel and you're going, or in my case, you're going copy, paste, because we like recycling, right? Reuse, reduce, recycle. That absolutely applies to marketing, but it can't apply to your marketing if you're not actually producing the quality long form content in the first place. Every single day, you're reaching out to people. You're creating those powerful partnerships, those purposeful partnerships. And this basically is, you know, this is kind of similar to what I'm doing here, right? I've gotten in front of 140 of you fine folk. Some of you, most of you have never heard of me before, wouldn't know me from Adam, and now you know me, right? So this is what we can do every single day of the week. Every single day of the week, we build relationships the way that we build business. Building relationships is part and parcel of being in business. Marketing is social, sales is social, and your network is absolutely invaluable. And no, you do not have to hang out with dickheads. You can go out and find the good people on the internet. If you have a really hard time with this, if you struggle with social media, find me on Instagram and then look at who I'm following, because I tell you what, my experience of Instagram is awesome. I have such a good time because I'm following awesome type good eggs. I'm following people that are interesting. So this is a fabulous, fabulous thing to do, and it will pay off over time. Of